Hey everybody, David here, and today I want to talk about Superman and is he relevant today? Because guess what? There was some stuff going on Sunday, I believe it was Sunday, where people were asking the question because it was coming out of Warner Brothers that Warner Brothers doesn't really think Superman is that relevant today, and that's why they're not pushing fast on a Superman movie. And a lot of people came to Superman's defense because in this day and age where the world is so dark and bleak right now and depressing to live in, a lot of people really need a character like Superman, especially since Marvel just retired Captain America. A character that brought a lot of hope to people because he was a very optimistic character. And I agree, there are a lot of ways you can really make Superman relevant. And it shocks me that Warner Brothers would think this way. I love Warner Brothers. I love what they've done with Man of Steel. Man of Steel is my favorite DCEU movie. It's one of my all-time favorite superhero movies in general. I love Superman as a character. It's Superman and Batman for me. Those are the two superheroes neck to neck with each other on who are my favorites. If I had to pick it, in the past, I'm going to be honest, I would probably pick Batman, but in recent years, I've been leaning more towards Superman because of how dark the world seems sometimes. And I do think characters like Superman are better to look at when hoping for the best in humanity. Um, because I do hope that the world will become a better place one day. Things can't get any worse, and I always hope that things can get better. As with Superman, I think there are plenty of villains that have yet to be untouched. The movies have always focused on either Lex Luthor or General Zod, who are, great villains in their own rights and have been portrayed really well. I love Michael Shannon's version of Zod. Terrence Stamp was great back in his day. Lex Luthor has had some ups and downs, depending on which version you want to talk about. Personally, I think the television side of things has given us some of the best incarnations of Lex Luthor, whether it was Superman the Animated Series, or Michael Rosenbaum on Smallville, or hell, even John Cryer, who is on Supergirl, is killing it as Lex Luthor. I think he is a fantastic Lex Luthor in the Arrowverse. But look, for whatever reason, those are the only two villains that they keep going to. Despite the television stuff giving us other villains that Superman has in his roster, whether it's on Smallville or Lois and Clark, or even on Supergirl, they've brought in some Superman villains throughout the years. I'm kind of sad that we haven't seen villains like Metallo or Parasite or even Toyman, or the number one villain that should be next on their list is Brainiac. Brainiac is the ultimate Superman, one of the ultimate Superman villains. You could say Darkseid is as well, but I really want to see Brainiac in a film one day. I know when the original producers of the Christopher Reeve films still had the rights to make Superman films, they were considering Brainiac for Superman 3, but for whatever reason they decided to go in a separate direction and give us Ross Webster and his sister and his mistress. Okay. But look, I think there's plenty of stories from Superman that you could get to and make them relevant for today. And the one that crosses my mind might not necessarily just be a Superman story. It's actually Superman Batman Public Enemies, where President Lex Luthor declares war on Superman, which, say what you want. Superman is supposed to be representative. He's supposed to be the ultimate immigrant, right? Who came to America to live a free life. And, when Lex Luthor declares martial law, you know, that's pretty relatable when you think about the last couple of weeks. So it boggles my mind when thinking that Warner Brothers doesn't know how to make Superman relevant when there's clearly a lot of stories in the comics. And I've read quite a bit of Superman comics. Superman and Batman and Justice League are the majority of comics that I've read throughout my years, as well as Spider-Man and X-Men as well. The big ones, obviously. So it boggles. It's like Warner Brothers doesn't even look at their comics that they own, and or go and ask a comic book creative, someone who works in the comic book industry, and ask them, hey, what are some Superman comics that can make really good stories for the big screen? What are some that you can recommend to our writers or whatever, whoever we hire to take a look at? I don't know why. And it bothers me because they have so much vast stories since 1938 when the character was created that they can't pick up an issue and be inspired by that story from the comics. Even if they want to do their own original story, go for it. But you still have vast of material there to work with and be inspired by. Another thing that a lot of people have been making comparisons to is something that I kind of briefly mentioned at the beginning of this video, is Captain America. You know, this is something that I know I've talked about in the past as well. Either I tweeted it or I talked about it in a past video. It's amazing how Captain America, you know, he was everybody's least favorite Avenger when one of the least favorite Avengers. I think Hawkeye was still below him, but not to knock down Hawkeye. Captain America wasn't the cool one when the MCU first started. Let's all face it here. Even for me, he was probably like my fourth or fifth favorite out of the original six, right? For me, it was Thor was number one. He was always number one. He still is. Iron Man was number two. Hulk was number three. And then maybe it was Captain America or Black Widow. They could switch whenever, depending on how I felt. But as time went on, specifically with Captain America the Winter Soldier, the second film, I feel that's where Captain America started to become cool and interesting to a lot of people, because his world was turned upside down, but he still maintained those morals that he started with in Captain America the First Avenger. And I'll be honest, I've gone back to Captain America the First Avenger, and it's been growing on me throughout the years. I really look back at that movie now and have much more of an appreciation for it. That's why it's risen on my list of some of my favorite MCU films. And then, of course, we also had Civil War. And I feel like Civil War is the one that made me realize that Captain America had become my second favorite MCU Avenger character. Because Civil War made you pick between Team Iron Man and Team Cap. Everybody was playing the hashtag game, Team Cap or Team Iron Man. And even though Iron Man had the best looking team, he had Black Panther, he had Spider-Man. I mean, Spider-Man was definitely the carrot for the kids to try and get, right? Because what kid doesn't love Spider-Man? I love Spider-Man, man. And especially Tom Holland's take on the character. But Captain America, what he was fighting for, made more sense to me, and I was Team Cap right from the beginning. So it's kind of funny that Marvel managed to make Captain America cool, and I know there's a lot of people now that love Captain America and Chris Evans as that character. And people love Henry Cavill as Superman. They just want to see him in a Superman movie that everybody can be on board with. And even though I loved Man of Steel, I have always said we need to get a Superman movie that's not divisive. We need to get a Superman movie that everybody can be on board for. I hope these rumors about J.J. Abrams directing a Superman movie is true. But whatever happens, I hope they just trust in their directors and their writers and look at the vast history of this character and see what worked in the past and try to make a really good movie. So with that being said, everybody, I want to say I hope you can comment below and tell me your thoughts on Superman. Do you think Superman is still a character that could work today? There have been many incarnations that I know a lot of people, including myself, that have grown up with, you know? So with that being said, comment below. Please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel, especially if you're a huge fan of Superman and superheroes in general. And until next time, take care.